Have you heard that lack of sleep can cause depression, and that depression can cause insomnia, and that if you sleep too much, you may develop an anxiety disorder? Are you overall just confused about everything you hear online about sleep and mental health? If so, you've come to the right class, because this is exactly what we're going to sort out today. Yeah, welcome back. Hope you're doing really, really well today. And the reason we're talking about sleep and mental health is that I did a short on this topic a while back, and somebody in the comment section said, "Hey, Daniel, can you expand on this topic?" And I said, "Of course." So that's why we are doing this today. We're going to talk about sleep and mental health, and we're going to divide this class into three sections. Firstly, does short sleep cause mental health problems? Secondly, does insomnia cause mental health problems? And thirdly, we're going to kind of reverse things and answer the common question of, do mental health problems cause insomnia? And when I talk about mental health problems here, it's mainly kind of the most common ones, like struggles with anxiety, depression. But really, I think what we talk about here can apply to so many more, like, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, tinnitus, restless leg syndrome, yeah, anything that fits under kind of like mind body, I think really applies here. And I'm going to use inner struggles a lot too in this class. And the reason for that is that I believe there really isn't a disorder when we talk about the topics we're going to talk about today. And when we talk about mental health, oftentimes people use words like anxiety disorder or like, major depression disorder, things of that nature, that implies that somebody struggling with this has some type of disorder or affliction or condition, which I do not believe is the case at all. I think these struggles really all come from a confusion. But, I use mental health or mental health problems because that's what we commonly hear out there to make this, logical. But I sort of change that to inner struggles too as we go along as well, because of the reason I just mentioned. So just clarifying the vocabulary a little bit there. But with that said, let's jump in and look at the first one. Does short sleep cause mental health problems? And by short sleep, I mean, sleep curtailment, when we, for any reason, aren't sleeping as much as we would have otherwise. Think somebody who is like working two jobs with maybe different shifts that make it hard to have sufficient opportunity for sleep, or a parent with small kids or something like that. And my answer to this one: does short sleep or sleep disruption, when sleep is kind of choppy for external reasons, or we sleep a little for external reasons, does this cause mental health problems? My answer to this one is actually no. Of course, no medical advice here. I'm just sharing my thoughts on this. But my thought on this is that the answer is no. Short sleep or sleep disruption by itself does not cause any type of inner struggle, aka mental health problem. And how can we get some type of like evidence for this using a thought experiment? Well, we can use the experience I just had. If you look at a group of people, a segment of the population that is definitely sleep deprived, not getting enough sleep and getting very fragmented sleep, it is parents of small kids with infants. And we know that, this sleep disruption doesn't automatically lead to this person getting anxiety struggle or depression or chronic pain or chronic fatigue or anything like that. Just curtailing someone's sleep doesn't automatically lead to any form of struggle. So we have some, a thought, at least a thought, thought experiment that highlights this. But what can be confusing is that although little sleep or fragmented sleep in itself doesn't cause any inner struggles, how we think about it definitely can, you know. And somebody becomes a parent and they sleep very little, and they're like, oh my gosh, this can't be good for me. I've heard it's very important for my health to sleep more. I can't take care of my little baby if I don't sleep more. Now that can make us pressure to sleep, and we can feel anxious about sleep, and then we can sleep little because of that now, and that can lead to an anxiety struggle, or a struggle where we feel like things are hopeless, and like we feel depressed about the whole situation. So how we think about it can definitely lead to inner struggles, but the short sleep or the sleep disruption in itself does not. So that was our first question, and that leads us to our second one. Does insomnia lead to mental health problems? And for anyone who's sort of newer to the channel and wonders like, what's the difference between short sleep and insomnia? Well, We kind of already talked about it, but short sleep is like when we, for external reasons, are just not sleeping as much as we would have otherwise under different circumstances. Insomnia, on the other hand, is when a fear of not sleeping is keeping us from sleeping well. So it's this inner struggle where we're afraid of not sleeping, and that keeps us in a loop of not sleeping. So, does insomnia cause mental health problems? To me, the answer again is no. It's not like insomnia causes an anxiety disorder or insomnia causes us to feel depressed, or anything like that. Rather, I think the truth is that all these inner struggles come from the same place. And asking, like, does insomnia cause anxiety struggles, or do anxiety struggles cause insomnia? It's sort of like asking, does a sore throat cause fever, or does a fever cause a sore throat in the context of somebody having a cold? The answer is that both the sore throat and the fever are just signs that somebody is having a cold. The root of them are the same. There's some virus we have, and our immune system reacts in a way, and then we have, we can feel this in multiple ways. And I think the truth is that all these inner struggles we have, whether it is, again, like the chronic fatigue, chronic pain, tinnitus, depression struggles, anxiety struggles, insomnia, they all come from the same place. They all come from experiential avoidance. They all come from a place where our brain has identified something that is harmless as a threat, and it's using all its resources to fight this, to combat this, to avoid this, to keep us safe. With insomnia, it's like the token, the thing that is harmless but has been identified as a threat, is being awake at night. With an anxiety disorder, the token is actually the emotion anxiety itself. Like, that emotion has been tokenized. It's harmless in itself to feel anxious, but when our brain thinks, like, oh no, this emotion is a threat to us, then we can have an anxiety struggle. With depression, it's more like sadness, when the feeling of, when sadness, it has been tokenized, when this harmless emotion to the brain represents, like, this is no good, this feeling shouldn't be there, it becomes afraid of, like, the sadness, then we can have a depression struggle. If pain becomes the token, chronic pain. If fatigue becomes the token, chronic fatigue. If a ringing in our ear becomes the token, tinnitus, etc., etc. Like, these all come from the same place of experiential avoidance. And if you really, really go to the root of it, all these inner struggles are from a fear of fear. Insomnia, I just said, like, the token with insomnia is wakefulness, right? The brain has identified being awake as a threat, and that leads to struggle. Yes, but where does that wakefulness come from in the concept of insomnia? It comes from a fear, a fear of not sleeping. So even insomnia, at the root, is like this fear of fear. Even if we were awake at night, but we weren't scared of that, we wouldn't be bothered, right? So it's really the fear of feeling scared of not sleeping is really the root of insomnia. It's a fear of fear. With anxiety, it's very clear to see it because we're, like, afraid of feeling anxious. Anxiety is just a form of fear, right? So that's fear of fear. And even something like depression, where we're really scared of feeling, like, sad and heavy. Well, if we weren't scared of that, then there wouldn't be struggle. So there's always, like, at the root of it, it's like a fear of fear is at the root of all these struggles, right? Which takes us to our third segment here. And I'm just correcting a little typo that I put in here. I said 2 instead of 3, but really this is 3. Do mental health problems cause insomnia? Now we're turning things. We looked first at whether short sleep could cause mental health problems. We looked at whether insomnia could cause mental health problems. Now we're turning things around, and we're asking the question, do mental health problems like depression, anxiety cause insomnia? And you actually already know the answer to this. The answer is that it's not like being depressed causes insomnia, or anxiety struggles cause insomnia. It's if we have both, it's because they come from the same place. Now, and another thing I wanted to add to this is that when it comes to just sleep in itself, I think it can be really notable to point out that when it comes to inner struggles, things can go both ways. Meaning, if we have a inner struggle or mental health problem that involves hyperarousal, like with anger, or like with anxiety, and we're, like, hyper aroused, that leads to shorter sleep and more fragmented sleep, right? But if our inner struggle involves a hypoarousal situation, like when we feel depressed and we're, like, I'm hopeless. There's nothing I can do. We're just kind of subdued. We have this heavy feeling. We're hypo aroused. That actually typically leads us to having longer sleep and we're feeling sleepy all the time, right? So hypo and hyperarousal can affect our sleep without causing any type of inner struggle. If we're not afraid of, short sleep or long sleep or how we feel, then there's no struggle. It's just, again, sleep disruption and long sleep. They can be related to like a hyperarousal and hyperarousal situation in this way, which I also wanted to just point to. Now, we've actually covered our three topics here, but as a little thank you thank you to you for being here, for studying, and for taking in this information. A little bonus here: three three little questions that I thought really are appropriate here, that often come up in the context of what we just talked about. So one is this one: do I need to sleep more to be less anxious? Very, very common one. And the flip side of that one, very, very common too. Do I need to be less anxious to sleep more? And we've already covered like how these things, these inner struggles all come from the same place. But you know, if we hear this, do I need to sleep more to be less anxious? We already know that, anxiety struggles come from a fear at the root of it. So sleep doesn't affect this, but it's worthwhile to point this one out, because if we hear this and we think this may be true, I need to sleep more to be less anxious, then of course that creates a pressure for us to sleep. And the more pressured we are to sleep, the less we sleep and the more anxious we become about that. So if we think I need to sleep more to be less anxious, that's a tricky one. And the same in reverse too. Do I need to be less anxious, sleep more? If you heard that one and you somehow think, oh, I need to make myself calm so I can sleep more, that makes us more pressured to feel less anxious, which makes us anxious, right? So this is just a tricky sort of like duality here that I often hear about. So I wanted to clarify that one. B, why do we hear so much of how lack of sleep causes mental health problems? Like in media, this is, we hear this every day. It's almost like, the airwaves are saturated with this idea, right? And I think it's actually because it's in a lot of people's interest actually to make us think this. If you think of it like, again, this is gonna be very generalizable. I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but there are s- in certain professions, if you will, or positions, it's actually beneficial to you if people think this. If you think of being like a sleep researcher, and imagine you found no evidence that short sleep has any impact on our health or our mental health, and you said, oh, there's really nothing here. How could you get any funding? How would you get published? How would you advance in your career, right? So it is in your interest as a researcher to say that little sleep causes mental health problems. It's your interest to find this. It's your interest, if you have a study, to kind of like mine the data, look for something that implies that short sleep causes mental health problems. And with media in general, like media in general, it thrives on attention, eyeballs, right? And we hear something that's scary to us that gets our attention, and industry in general, anybody who sells anything sleep related is in all likelihood going to have an easier time selling this if people are scared, like, oh, I need this to sleep. If I don't sleep enough, I'm going to get depression. Oh, so I need this blanket, I need this pillow, I need this thing, right? So I think this is why we hear so much about this all the time. And finally, see, if you tuned into this because you have struggled with insomnia and, let's say, depression and anxiety, or some other inner struggle, then you may wonder, okay, what should I do? Because I'm not only struggling with insomnia, I'm struggling with insomnia and these other things. And I think the answer to this is that how we leave one inner struggle is how we leave all inner struggles. So if you have somebody that you trust, that you're learning from when it comes to your pain, for example, then what they teach you there, which essentially is some form of exposure, some form of like, allow yourself to feel the pain. Don't try to run away from it or escape it, that's going to be the same answer to all the other struggles. So when people are in this situation, I always say, like, whatever teacher you have that resonates with you, learn from that teacher and their area of expertise, if you will, And whatever you learn there, you can apply to all the inner struggles. And then you find yourself where you want to be, which is a place of peaceful sleep and peace of mind. Hope this is really helpful to you. If you have any thoughts, questions about this, then post them in the comment section. I no longer routinely reply to comments, but I read them and I get inspiration from them. So please post them here. And again, thanks so much for being here. Hope you found a lot of value here, and I look forward to having you back real soon. Until then, bye-bye. Hi there, it's me, Coach Daniel. I hope you found a lot of value in the video you just watched. And if you're looking for a bit more personalized support on your insomnia recovery journey, then head over to thesleepcrystal.com. I think it is the #1 resource for insomnia sufferers worldwide. And there you will find free programs as well as paid programs with certified sleep coaches. You can join a community of people who understand what you're going through because they've gone through it themselves, or they are on this journey of leaving the struggle and arriving where they want to be, just like you, that place of peaceful sleep and peace of mind. So again, I hope the video that you just saw brought a lot of value to you. And if you're looking for a bit more personalized support on your journey, then head over to thesleepcoachschool.com. And if you decide to join, we look forward to seeing you on the other side.